Alright guys, if you don't mind taking the time while I'm going over this a little bit to kind of rate the game, let me know what you thought of it. Alright. Let's see. Spoiler free. Yes. I had zero idea what was going on. The next game I play gets picked by a Raffle. Alright, so the music rating. I actually liked most of the music in this game. It suffers from what many of the other games back then suffered from, and it's not a very vast OST. It doesn't have a whole lot of songs. Oh yeah, next is Tales of Grace's F, but the game after that gets picked next. It was a pretty solid... excuse me, a pretty solid OST overall. I just would have liked to hear more songs. That would have been... I'm trying to think of like some of the battle themes I liked, some of the map themes I liked, and stuff like that. Again, there were some really good songs you don't get to hear very often, but overall, I liked it. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 7. Graphics rating for the era. I think this looks really good for an N64 game. There's not a whole lot to it. The maps are, you know, a map. It's the basic structure of something that you normally look at in other RPGs. When you press a button, you can see what the map looks like. That's pretty much what you're on 90% of the time. There's no real towns you're going into or anything like that. But the sprite work and stuff like that was pretty solid, and it was pretty well done, I think, for an N64 game. I'm gonna go ahead and give that a 7 as well. I wish that the emulator didn't have as many issues as it did with a lot of the stuff, but even considering that, it still looked pretty good. Story rating. I didn't really like the story at all, honestly. I found it very uninteresting. A whole political nonsense stuff that's in most tactical games. I feel like you were given the element of decisions. Every time the paths kind of branched out and there was multiple paths to go, there was probably a correct way to go in the sense of being good, bad, or I would say neutral, I guess. I don't feel like it was very descriptive in which method or which place to go was the better of the two options and things like that. My goal, honestly, most of the time was to go through all three, and maybe I was reading dialogue incorrectly, or maybe I was supposed to make a decision based on, you know, just one thing that somebody said that would be the right thing to do, but my idea was to do all of them, and the few times that I tried to do that, it ended up closing off other paths. So obviously there's some decisions you can make there. There's a couple other decisions in the game to make too, like whether you want your dad on your team. I think you like have the option to kill somebody or not kill somebody at one point and things like that. So there's a couple options that would change the story. I don't know how different the story is, whether you end up fighting like the same goddess at the end and then like the ending is just like, oh, they're happy for you to be there and stuff like that. I have no idea what to expect from the good ending, so I can't rate that. I can't really give it to you, but I can say from what I played through and stuff like that, yeah, well, again, vaguely is a good method of putting it. Again, not thinking that you can't do all three when you've been able to go on other branched paths and go to both is a completely different story, too. The order you do them in shouldn't have that much significance. It's an arbitrary deciding factor of whether you're good or evil. The other decisions that I made up to that point were kind of pointless. Hang on. Regardless of that, if that's what decided for me whether I was good or evil or not, it feels like the other decisions that I was making throughout the game were kind of pointless. It might have had something to do with the fact that I was killing units too to get the items, and maybe I should just let them go, which is what I started doing at the end. If I didn't kill their whole party, I just let it go. Again, I have no idea what was affecting the good, bad, or neutral route or anything like that. But the overall story in general was just, maybe this was just the bad ending, or the bad approach was this decision of I'm always in a position where no matter what I do is completely insignificant. Either way, I'm bad or I'm good. The typical, it's war, so fighting is bad, but we have to kill these bad guys because they're killing those bad guys and things like that. But that makes us bad too, and so on and so forth. That was basically this entire storyline. I figure, like, maybe for the first, like, 20 scenes or so, that's pretty much what it was. And it started picking up a little bit more with, introducing the prince and his backstory and everything else, and incorporating a lot of other things that was going on, showing what what everyone was actually doing and where people were pulling the strings and stuff like that. A majority of that came within the last couple hours of the game. And it really felt like if the decisions that I made up until that point were such a determining factor when the story actually started opening up, it should have carried a lot more weight or significance. If I was trying to go to an area or something like that, maybe bring up some type of prompt letting me know, are you going to leave these people to die or something like that, rather than just one little briefing station that says, oh, you got 3 places to go. This is kind of a good decision. This one's a super bad decision. This one's okay, but, you know, which one do you want to do? Again, I don't understand exactly what's going to be the proper, good, bad ending or whatever. There was potentially even more stuff I had to do it, but I can say that I really did not like this story. It started to pick up for me at the end. I was actually starting to get into it a little bit and things like that, but then that ending at the end, honestly, just like flushed this game down the toilet in my eyes. I could never try to recommend this game to somebody and maybe them potentially get stuck seeing that ending after putting anywhere from 20 to 40 hours into this game. I would feel bad for making somebody sit through something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and give the story a 5. I was leaning towards a 6 and a 7 till the end, but honestly, I'm sorry. That was one of the stupidest, most frustrating endings I have ever watched in a game. Even though it had story and context and stuff like that, it just felt so out of left field, coming out of nowhere to just give me this pinned on, oh, you made bad decisions early in the game, so here's this arbitrary bad ending for you. It doesn't feel like it has any reference to what I did at the end or anything like that. That's really frustrating to me. I would have much rather the obligatory go through the game, make loads of decisions, and all the decisions mean absolutely nothing, and then all of a sudden, at the end of the game, you get this one decision that makes you decide whether you're good or evil. I would have preferred something like that, because at least it would have had some relevance. Do we kill the goddess at the end? Do we not kill the goddess at the end? Like, something that actually conveys my decision-making being evil or something like that. Not what the game deems to be good, bad, or evil or anything else. The mechanics of this game. I am not going to say too much about the mechanics because I know that there's a lot that I don't understand, so I will talk about what I do understand. The game overall is pretty simplistic with how you move around the map, how you can attack enemies on the sides and front, things and so on and so forth, how the formations work, and your ability to focus targets kind of based on where you're positioning and stuff like that is on your formation. That type of stuff is intuitive, and it's something you're going to pick up very quickly with the first couple fights you get into, whether you get attacked from behind or so on and so forth. You start to see kind of what classes are more focused on dealing damage, classes that have the chance of maybe attacking multiple times or attacking certain places of formations and things like that. And the tactics behind that it's very intuitive. I didn't have to play any type of tutorial or anything to understand that. Then you get into the class changing system, which I figured out way further into the game. The fact that you can change classes, I think it has something to do with items and stats and your alignment. I think there's multiple things that go into it. So I was getting alignment throughout the entire game. I don't understand what was, when it was going up, when it was going down. I initially thought that because I was too high of a level, I was losing alignment with fighting enemies that were a lower level than me. So I was assuming that that's why I was losing it constantly. But then I put a higher level unit and a lower level unit. I put an enemy or an ally that was level 30 in a group of level 22, 23 characters. And when I was fighting there, All the alignment on my lower level characters went down, but the alignment on the high level character went up, even though I was fighting units that were significantly weaker and lower than me. So I had zero understanding of how that worked in the first place. Your stats were pretty straightforward. You could see you had this little chart, this growth chart, where you could see it would show red if you weren't quite there to try and make the class. But you had to have the class available to you first to know what stats you were going to need. So that was a little frustrating in that regard. And I honestly thought it had something to do with levels because of how my characters grew up till that point. Maybe this was something that was explained in the tutorial, I don't know, but I feel it really wasn't intuitive and it really didn't give me anything to go towards. It just kind of fell on me. The classes that I got because my alignment was what it was as I progressed through the game. If I would have known that it had such a determining factor of what you got to pick and what was opened up to you and things like that, maybe I would have approached the game a little bit differently. Maybe I would have tried to understand more, but I don't think I ever would have figured out how alignment worked. It seems like the enemies in this game do proportionally more damage to you than you can do to them, even if you overgrind. So I kept my secondary party about 5 levels under, and within that 5 levels, they were doing significantly lower damage than the other enemies that I was fighting and things like that, but I was taking anywhere from 60s to 80s to 90 damage. So either I was under-leveled at the end of the game, which it really doesn't feel like I was, but the enemies just scaled so quickly, especially with the magic damage that they did, and having equipment on me that tend to absorb magic damage or take less magic damage. So there was no method throughout the game for me where I could understand, like, how much more difficult are the enemies going to get on the next map? Do I need to grind here? Do I not need to grind? Should I go back and try to recruit more things? Are the enemies scaling with my level? None of that type of stuff made any sense to me or wasn't intuitive at all, so it made it very difficult for me to just want to sit and train or bring up more classes. What if it was based on an average level? What if the average level of everyone that I had or units that I had was basing the difficulty of the game or the scaling of the game? Well, in that case, I'm better off only leveling 1 or 2 parties, because then the average is going to be lower. It could have also been based on the highest level of my character, which means that I would have had to have everybody around that level to be able to do anything in the game. And I got to a point where I just kind of couldn't incorporate new teams, even though I wanted to, because they were just too weak. I would have had to sit there and grind it, I don't know how many separate battles, and spend a lot of money on that type of stuff just to make it work. So, all in all, the mechanics, I didn't really enjoy them too much. But I started to understand bits and pieces of them, and I think that I would have enjoyed the game more if it wasn't for the ridiculously slow movement when you're on the map. It is the most frustrating thing ever to know that you can kill an enemy in 1 or 2 turns, but it's literally taking you 5 minutes to walk to them, and then having to get into a tent after a certain period of time and things like that. Who wants to wait in a game? When you're already in a game that's a slow-moving game and stuff like that, and you have to constantly be making decisions, to incorporate in my mind a decision of like, well, after I walk here for 5 minutes, I'm gonna have to sit still for 5 minutes so that I can then walk for 5 minutes again. Like, that's not interesting to me at all. And I think it had something to do with like weakening my characters as well. If I was tired, if not asleep when people attacked me. It definitely had some type of effect, but I didn't quite understand how it was working or anything like that. But man, was that frustrating. The map movement killed the mechanics of this game for me. It made me not want to explore the whole maps. It made me not want to try so many different things because it was so frustratingly slow. And I'd like to say that I've got a decent amount of patience with things, especially even if I'm not enjoying something. I played some longer games on here that were really frustrating, and I've gone through stuff and tried new things and stuff like that. But that map movement was probably one of the most frustrating things I've had to deal with in a game. Even if it was a strategic element to it, I did not enjoy that aspect at all. So as much as I was starting to grow on the mechanics a little bit and things like that, again, the slow map movement and everything else, and the lack of understanding and lack of intuitive nature of a lot of the other features in the game, I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm going to drop the mechanics. But again, someone that has a like a much wider understanding of it, or read guides, or looks some stuff up and looks up a bit of information, the mechanics might be more fun for you. They might make more sense. You might be more willing to try things if you can get over the slow map movement and things like that. I'm gonna go ahead and give that a 5 as well. Alright, grinding rating. So I tend to focus on this when the grinding takes a lot of time or it becomes a requirement. I have no idea whether it was a requirement or not. If the enemies scaled with me, which I have absolutely no clue whether they did or not, it might not have been required to grind at all. If they don't scale with me in any way, then hell yeah, you had to grind, because I almost died at the final boss there. That was a really close fight, and some of the fights up to that point would have been even closer if I could not kill the boss instantly. There was any given time, if a boss got a full set of moves to do on me, they showed that they could kill me. That happened with multiple bosses, because they could do maybe 2/3 of my health, or at least 1/3 of my health at any given time. So it was more of a rush to kill them before they could kill me. And if they kill my main character, the fight's over. I didn't have to use the main character for these fights. I could have let him sit in the back of another party and stuff like that, and just kind of weaken the boss with other parties up until that point. That could have been a strategy, but I didn't have a lot of parties, so... but I did spend a significant amount of time grinding in this game. Between chasing... Oh, and I didn't even get into this in the mechanics, but killing the leader of a party and having the entire group of enemies run away from you constantly, oh my god, that was frustrating me as well. You know, over almost all my times playing this, I don't think I ever killed the boss in one round. I was extremely surprised you were able to dunk her like that. Well, what happens if you don't kill her in one round? Well, it wasn't one round. We both got 2 sets of turns. I went through 2 cycles of attacks, but... So it must have kept going like the trainer fights. The grinding fights. So that's another thing too. I would say that you just go walk to her again. Oh, well, it looked like it went through 2 cycles of attacks for me. Anyway. So I don't know whether you're required to grind or not. I'd say if you had more party members and stuff like that, and you got through the mechanics and understood them a little bit more and had more formations, you might not have to grind quite as much, but for me, it was kind of a requirement. However, if you want to do everything in the game, if you want to go to every town, if you want to go into every stronghold, if you want to get every enemy so that you can get the items that potentially every enemy drops, if you want to recruit monsters to your team, you have to walk back and forth for long periods of time hoping that the RNG is in your favor and something shows up. You have to invest so much time into doing anything else that this game offers rather than going straight forward. So as much as you might not have to grind for levels and stuff, everything else in this game is a slog and a grind, and most of that's because of the slow map movement. If there was the ability to speed that up even slightly more than it is, this game would have been 10 times more bearable than it actually was. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a 4. And I'm giving it some credit there just because I don't know how required it is to actually grind level-wise and things like that. Okay, so overall, this game is definitely a 5 or a 6 for me. I have a really hard time thinking of anybody that I would recommend this to. I would be more willing to try some of the other Ogre battles first, or the... whatever they're called. If they're all called Ogre Battle, I'm not sure. I'd much rather try some of those games first to see if I enjoyed the battle system in those a little bit more, just to see if it was a little bit different. I am curious to see how much the tutorial would have taught me that I didn't already know, or figure out while playing through the game. Same thing with the manual. However, I don't feel like this game's just an easy approach for people. There's so many things that are actually going... Tactics Ogre. Okay, thank you. There's so much that's going on in this game that you have to invest a lot of time just into understanding it, not playing it. It's almost like running a study guide or something like that to understand what's going on. And I honestly feel like even if I did understand a lot of the aspects of the game, I just don't like how the approach of what this game did. And even when the story grew on me, it pulled the rug out from under me and really made me just want to stop playing this game, and sad that I was playing this game. That ending was just god-awful, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody, ever. ever. For people that like to play through games and choose whether to be good or bad, at least you're making a decision in the game. You're making this deciding, determining factor of like, I want to be evil, I want to be neutral, I want to be good in those types of games. And you know going in what to expect. If you're being evil and you get some type of shitty ending or something like that, then you know you're getting a shitty ending. The game kind of like walked around this tightrope of whether I was evil or neutral or anything else in the game based on my decisions and stuff like that. But again, I would have a really hard time recommending this game to anybody. I would probably tell them to check out the other ones first, but I should probably play them before I make that determining factor. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 6. Like I said, it started to grow on me a little bit. I was getting interested in the story. I was getting interested in some more of the characters and stuff like that. I liked the music. The mechanics were making sense, and my strategy was working, and even when it didn't work, I kind of was happy that it didn't work, that I couldn't just rush through and things like that, even though it was a little frustrating to know I was going to have to spend more times on maps that I didn't want to. I like the fact that they thought of that type of stuff. They started sending units from the back line. They sent more flying units and stuff like that. I can respect that. I like that type of tactics nature in the game, but I didn't like the overall mechanics that I was forced to go through the entire game. I would have a really hard time recommending this to anybody unless they maybe played others of the series before, and if I did, I would probably tell them to understand that the decisions that they make are very important. But that's hard to do if someone wants to go into a game blind. And again, I don't even know if it's decisions that you make that give you the better ending. I have no idea. But let me go ahead and see what you guys rated the game. And I think I'm giving it a lot of credit, mostly because this last session for me was the most enjoyable session up until that ending. So I'm definitely giving it a lot of credit for showing up at the end, more so than it did the rest of the game for me. Calculator. Alright, let's see what you guys rated this. And again, don't get me wrong, this doesn't mean that it's a bad game. It's definitely a niche game. It's definitely meant for people that like this type of stuff, that are really looking for something like this. But I gotta say that there's gonna be a lot more people that do not like it and don't want to play it than there are people that are gonna be excited to play something like this. It's just, it doesn't have a lot going on for everybody. It doesn't bring much to the table for people unless you're looking for something specific like this. And thank you for the 8 of you that rated the game. You guys gave it a 6.5, so pretty close to what I rated as well. Nope. I will watch the other endings, though. I want to see just how different the good ending is. If it's something completely like 10 times better or something like that, that's probably going to frustrate me even more. Alright, took us 26 hours, 6 minutes, and 12 seconds. I gotta be honest with you, I didn't even think that that was the end of the game. I thought that the way they were talking and stuff like that, that there was going to be some other major boss and some other groups I had to go through, a couple other attacks and things like that. It didn't feel like it was the end of the game to me, which is why the ending is even more frustrating. Anyway. Who do you bribe to win the raffle? You don't bribe anybody. That's not how it works. But anyway, guys, that means you know what time it is. Yes, it was a play this game again because you obviously didn't make the right decisions and you should feel like shit for some of the decisions that you made where you probably don't even remember making them or them carrying any weight or significance. It doesn't feel like it's tied into the actual game at all. Oh man, you guys have no idea how I'm trying to be very objective here with like my thought process and things like that with this game. I so badly just want to say that it's a piece of crap. I'm never gonna play it again. Don't play it and things like that because of how frustrating that ending was. But I'm giving it credit where it deserves credit. But man, do I want to say some shitty things about it. Alright guys, you know what time it is. For those of you new to the channel, all you have to do is type in the word Raffle. It gives you the chance to win and pick the next game that I play. Well, the next game after the game that I'm currently playing. But yep, all you have to do is type in the word Raffle. If you like RPGs, if you want to see some RPGs, you can take a look at the list. Kind of give yourself an idea of what type of game you want to look for. The journey is more important than the destination. The first 10 hours of the journey sucked. Rant away. Alright, so while you guys are sitting and entering the raffle, hopefully, a few more things to say about this game. I do not like when a tutorial is required for a game to understand it, and unless the tutorial is forced on me, which in a game like this one, it really should have been. It should have been implemented as part of the story while then giving you the option to skip it or not. Because if it was separate from that initial menu, I probably would have gone through it. But the fact that it was at the initial menu honestly made me feel like the fact that they're separating it here means something really, really, really bad for me. It means I'm going to understand absolutely nothing without doing it. And I'm going to play through it like that because I feel like a game should be somewhat intuitive. You should be able to pick up on a lot of things by playing through a game. You should not have to sit through a tutorial. And I went over it many times that even though I really liked Xenoblade Chronicles, even though I struggled through aspects of that game and I had a lot of trouble here and there, I still did not like how the tutorials in that game were put across. And I feel like a lot of people played that game and still didn't understand stuff after the tutorials because you're not required to use it. Well, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff going on. I don't even really understand the point of taking the towns and things like that other than to view the strongholds. It seems like there should be some other significance to them, but I never thought any or figured any of that type of stuff out. But again, if you want to enter the raffle, if you want a chance of picking the next game that I play, go ahead and type in the word raffle. I'll give you guys about another minute here, and then we'll go ahead and do the roll. All right. Good luck, everybody. 3, 2, 1. Psycho Rider, have you won before? I don't think you have. There you go. Congratulations, Psycho Rider. You have a game in mind already? You want to look at the list for a while? Rigged. It's always rigged, guys. Hey, at least I know what Lotus is now. I understand the some of the areas in the game and stuff like that. Valkyria Chronicles. Is that the one with like the tanks and stuff like that? What is that? Just all it's called? There's no other like title to it or anything like that? Just that. Okay. Valkyria Chronicles. Oh, I think I remember seeing Kulthor play a bit of that. And then I had to stop because, you know, spoilers. Yep, definitely my first time played. Why does it always default the text color to? Wait. I like this music, but I don't remember it from the game. Alright, so, Zapdos, what do you have to do to get the other endings? Is it purely those decisions that you make along the map, where you decide one way to go or the other? Yeah, I'll probably end up having to pick it up on Steam myself. Clean your room? I did rescue my dad. Well, I didn't rescue him at the end, but I didn't kill him. I don't remember. Okay, well, next game is Tales of Grace's F, picked by Overhunter, and then after that we got Psycho Rider's pick of Valkyrie Chronicles, whatever the heck you want to say. I do remember some of the text questions that I had. I remember some of that type of stuff. I'll talk about it a little bit more too, but if you guys have been in the Discord, we've been talking about the potential for maybe every 10 games that I maybe put something up there, kind of like the Nightbot thing, where you guys would all kind of get a decision to pick some of the games that I played. A few of the things that would do is that would let some of you that haven't won the raffle yet have a little bit more say in what it got picked. And it would also let me incorporate more games here and there. The only reason we've been thinking about doing stuff like this is because there's a lot of newer games that I've been interested in playing. And although there is a chance for people picking newer games, it's also a chance that it never happens. And I think having discussions about games when they're new it's something that's exciting, it's something that's fun. Not that I expect to get any viewers for playing some newer games while they're popular and stuff like that, but that's not the point. The point is to be able to talk to you guys about it, to not have to force you guys out of conversations and stuff like that because something's new and I don't want to hear about it. So we'll think about that a little bit more. We're getting close to game 60 here, so I'll think about it a little bit more going forward, and we'll talk about it a little bit more in Discord and stuff like that. But for now, I'm done. But I'm gonna find somebody to host you guys with, and as always, since we finished a game, the main thing that determines what you get at the end, and honestly, the game does not tell you this. I can't say is a good decision. The main things: liberating and capturing. Wait, liberating and capturing. What? Oh, God. Good luck on your schoolwork, man. Alright, let me find somebody to host here, guys. Let's raid them. Every time you go to a stronghold, you get either liberate or capture. I did see a few times that capture showed up and liberate showed up, but I have no idea what did that. Thanks, guys. Yep, we reached 2,000 hours during this stream. Pretty hype. A lot of you haven't played Octopath, so I don't want to host BGG. Who else is streaming that I could host? Everyone's playing Octopath! Alright, I'm gonna host somebody named Holy Smith here. I haven't had the opportunity to host him before, or we're gonna raid him. So let's think of what we want to say, guys, in the raid. We can say Barrel Squad or something like that. I don't know. You guys can think of something, anything that's, Fight It Out's a pretty good one too, since we saw that a lot. Holy Smith is a, he does a lot of different RPG speedruns. He's currently doing a 4-job fiesta. Liberating is good. I don't understand what caused liberating and what caused capturing and stuff like that. Let's go ahead and go with Fight It Out, guys. It'll be fun. Let's get any type of emotes going with it or anything like that you want. Go ahead and spam it. Let's give this guy an awesome host and an awesome raid. Let's make his night if we can. Go ahead and spam it, guys. I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you for sticking around with me tonight. It was a longer stream, longer one that we've had for a while. I was not expecting to beat the game today. I honestly thought maybe we could beat it tomorrow or something, but we finished it. Have a great night, guys. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I hope to see you tomorrow.